Welcome to the iPad Podcast, a weekly podcast from Mac's Future.
Okay, welcome to the iPad Podcast by Lex at Mac's Future, and today is August 2nd, 2012, and I guess I'm a little late with this episode of the iPad Podcast. Sorry for the slippage, but I'm trying to get it out weekly. But anyways, this is a chit-chat-free podcast all about the iPad, and there's a lot of iPad stuff to talk about, a lot of iPad news, iPad apps. So you can support this podcast by going into iTunes and giving it a positive review. That would help other people find it, because I'm competing against the big boys like the Twit Network and 5x5 and other tech podcasts. And so any support you give would be greatly appreciated. So let's get to the stories. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is something that does affect the iPad, and that is there is currently a jury trial going on between Apple and Samsung, and it's a major trial because Apple's accusing Samsung of copying the iPhone and the iPad and the design, and I believe both the iPhone and iPad are at issue. And, basically Apple's claiming that Samsung copied the design and some patents. And Samsung is countersuing, claiming that Apple's violating some 3G patents involving 3G communications. But I think those are kind of weak claims because they're FRAND patents where Samsung's supposed to reasonably license those patents. And Apple's claiming that Samsung's trying to charge more than components are worth. But the reason I want to talk about it is, there's some real fireworks going on. This trial is before Judge Lucy Koh in the Northern District of California. And right before the trial started, and I put this on my blog at maxfuture.com, the magistrate judge issued a decision finding that Samsung had engaged in spoliation. And this is what the court basically ruled. It said that Samsung has failed to prevent the destruction of relevant evidence for Apple's use in this litigation. This is known as the spoliation of evidence. And so the court is going to instruct the jury in the following way. The court's going to say, I instruct you as a matter of law that Samsung failed to preserve evidence after its duty to preserve arose. This failure resulted from its failure to perform its discovery obligations, and the court's going to instruct the jury, you also may presume that Apple has met its burden of proving the following two elements by preponderance of the evidence. First, that relevant evidence was destroyed after the duty to preserve arose, and the evidence is relevant if it would have clarified a fact at issue in the trial and otherwise would not have been introduced into evidence. And second, the lost evidence was favorable to Apple. So this is pretty bad for Samsung. Now what happened was that what is spoliation? What happened was in the summer of 2010, Apple sent notice to Samsung that Apple believed that Samsung was violating its patents. And according to this decision that was published by the court, Samsung at the time, its counsel, instructed, 14 employees, not to destroy any documents and to preserve them, including email. Now, Samsung's homegrown email system, which the vast majority of people who work there used, would automatically delete emails after 2 weeks, which is a pretty short period of time. So Samsung only took steps regarding 14 employees, and obviously many more than 14 employees were involved in the creation of their Galaxy line of smartphones and iPads. And then, not until the spring of 2011, when Apple sued Samsung, did Samsung then go out to a wider number of employees and take steps to make sure things like emails and documents were preserved. Now, Samsung claimed, we didn't know in the summer of 2010 that we could be sued, and so we didn't have a duty to preserve. Except the problem is that internal Samsung instructions regarding the 14 employees who were told not to destroy evidence or emails specifically acknowledge that Samsung could be sued by Apple for these claims. So anyways, the bottom line is it's a pretty bad thing in litigation if you're accused of spoliation, that is, not preserving evidence when you know that you could be headed for litigation, because the court can find that you purposely destroyed documents. So this instruction is a remedy that the court's going to impose against Samsung in Apple's favor in instructing the jury. Now, the other thing that's crazy is this. The trial started on Monday, and Samsung is represented by a law firm called Quinn Emanuel, and a guy named John Quinn is, I guess, the managing partner. Well, apparently, prior to the trial, Samsung was trying to introduce, for purposes of the trial, some evidence, some slides of maybe a phone or model of a phone that Apple was, created, or that looks sort of like it was being, something that Sony would have created, and maybe an earlier model of a phone that Samsung was creating. And Samsung was going to argue that, Apple didn't, Apple copied Sony, and that Samsung didn't copy Apple. But the problem is, I guess, Samsung didn't produce this evidence to Apple in what's known as discovery before the trial. So the judge ruled that the evidence can't come in at trial because you have to give the other side a fair chance to look at it. Well, Samsung argued this several times to the judge before the trial, and then I guess when the trial started, this attorney, Mr. Quinn, tried to re-argue the same thing that he repeatedly had lost. And the judge basically said, no, I'm not going to hear the argument again to try to get this evidence in, because you did this several times and you lost, and I made my decision. And so you have a record. If later on you lose at trial, you can go to the Court of Appeals and they can decide whether I wrongly or rightly, excluded that evidence. So the judge is kind of miffed that the lawyer kept, insisting on re-arguing something that he lost several times. But shortly thereafter, while the trial was going on, Apple claims that Samsung issued a press release and publicly disseminated the evidence that it couldn't bring into the trial. And in the press release, it said something to the effect that, Samsung, regrets that the judge won't let this evidence come in. And Samsung believes that if the jury saw this evidence, that they would see that Samsung did not copy Apple with the iPhone or the iPad. And this is kind of a crazy thing to do when a trial's going on, particularly when the judge told you can't bring that evidence in. So Apple basically said that to the judge that, Apple thinks that the Samsung is trying to influence the jurors who are not sequestered. And the judge is very upset and demanded that the attorney provide an explanation. And the attorney did by this Wednesday, saying that, they didn't try to dissuade, influence the jury, that this stuff was already public. But Apple doesn't think that's a proper explanation. And so now Apple is seeking additional sanctions from Samsung before the trial resumes, including having the judge find that Samsung did violate certain patents. In other words, just sort of lose on some of the claims just because of the bad conduct by Samsung in the trial. So anyways, we're going to have to see what happens, but this is pretty crazy stuff. And the stakes are high. I think Apple's seeking something like $2.5 billion in this trial alone from Samsung for the patent infringements. So we'll keep you posted. Now, one of the things you got to be careful about, particularly when you're around a lot of people, is protecting your iPad and protecting your iPhone from would-be muggers or thieves who are going to just snatch it out of your hand. And it was a pretty prominent story here in New York involving a Wall Street Journal reporter who actually got his jaw broken when some I guess some people, or one person, grabbed his girlfriend's iPad when he was in the subway in New York and ran off with it. And the reporter is Rolf Winkler, and he basically reported on what happened. He said him and his date were on a New York City subway train looking at an ebook while the train slowed and stopped. And I'm looking at TUAW.com. When his train slowed and stopped at the Bergen Street station in Brooklyn, he said, and the article says, when a thief ripped the iPad out of his date's hand, Winkler instinctively chased him after him, only to run into the thief's backup team on the platform. It says, quote, instead of winning back the iPad, I found myself lying on the platform bleeding, my jaw split in half, end quote, said Winkler. And he ended up eating through a straw for a month, and, it was pretty bad. So basically, the gist of the story is that you got to be careful that there's a lot of thefts of iPhones and iPads in places like the subway and in, various communities. Of course, there was a famous incident, I think in Denver, where a guy was mugged for his iPad, and the guy mugging him ripped off part of his finger. So you got to be very careful. These are relatively expensive items, and there's obviously a big resale market, which makes it very enticing for thieves, because they can just sort of resell the iPads using Gazelle or eBay or something like that. Now, there is a movement to have the cell phone companies track the device ID for iPhones, and that way not allow stolen iPhones to hook up to the cell phone connection. But there's a bigger problem with iPads, and the problem with iPads is many of them just work on Wi-Fi. And how do you then ban a stolen iPad from working on Wi-Fi? Because the idea is if we could somehow disable the iPad, then it might dissuade thieves. Now, maybe Apple should come up with a solution. Maybe Apple should have a solution where if you report that an iPad is stolen, Apple somehow sends a self-destruct signal so that it's disabled, so that it can't be fixed and it can't run. Now, some people might freak out and say, well, Apple might then use that to go after people who jailbreak their iPad. But I don't think people would be upset if there was sort of a last-ditch option where Apple could truly disable an iPad. And if they did that regularly for stolen iPads, it might cut down on the number of iPad thefts. Anyway, so be careful out there when you're walking around with your iPad. Be aware of your environment, and maybe put it away if you think that, you're around some people who might snatch it. Maybe not. Don't just keep it out in the open reading it. Okay, so Apple is always patenting things, and some of the stuff it patents might, come soon to light, but some stuff takes a while, and some stuff never happens. But there's a really intriguing patent that Engadget has reported on today, August 2nd, that I think everyone's going to be excited about, and that is apparently Apple's developed a patent for a smart cover that has embedded in it a secondary display. And it says here at Engadget's website, according to a patent application made public by United States Patent Office this morning and originally filed a year ago, Apple believes it's possible to build a flexible display into an iPad cover in order to greatly enhance the functionality of the tablet itself. Taking power and data from a dedicated connector on the side of the slate, at least one segment of the name-serving smart cover would be used to augment the main display with space for extra icons, or operate as a separate media control interface, or simply display notifications. Drawings collected in the gallery show also hint at using the entire inner surface of the cover as a keyboard, like the Microsoft Surface. So, last month, with a lot of fanfare, Microsoft announced that it's going to be releasing its own Surface tablet. And the big thing that it was sort of emphasizing is that the Surface tablet's going to have a cover with a keyboard built in. But it looks like Apple's going to try to up the ante with a really intense and complex keyboard that's maybe a keyboard display or also a secondary display. So how cool would that be if you had multiple displays, one, the main display on the iPad, and then a fold-out second display where even maybe you have icons and stuff like that. So this is really clever stuff, and I hope it's not just confined to the world of patents, but Apple actually comes out with something like this. I think it would be very useful. Okay, so some additional facts are coming out regarding how much money Apple makes with the iPad compared to the iPhone. And Forbes was basically able to see, I'm looking at Forbes.com, through some filings by what the Apple's experts are going to be talking about in terms of damages in that big trial between Samsung and Apple. Forbes was able to see that actually the information revealed by Apple is that the iPad gets maybe half the profit margin on sales as compared to the iPhone. So it says here in the quote from the filing, Apple Inc. earned gross margins of 49 to 58% on its United States iPhone sales between April 2010 and the end of March 2012, while gross margins on the iPad were much lower during much of that period, according to the court filing. And it says here between October 2010 and the end of March 2012, Apple had gross margins of 22 to 32% on U.S. iPad sales, which generated revenue of $13 billion for Apple. So the question is, Forbes raises why, in other words, what the profit margin, gross margins are, in other words, let's say if you sell something for $1 and, 50 cents of that goes to covering your cost. And so then the question becomes, what's the rest? Is it profit? And so what this information says is that, on the iPhone, Apple gets a profit of 49 to 58% on each dollar of iPhone sold, which is really high. And with the iPad, it gets only a profit of 23 to 32% on the iPad sales. So, Forbes is guessing that the reason why that's the case is because with in other words, that Apple can charge more money for the iPhone than it can for the iPad. That's what the bottom line is from Forbes. And Forbes is basically saying, look, in the United States, most iPhones are sold at a subsidized price. So the consumer doesn't see the full price of the iPhone. Like, in other words, if you sign up for a 2-year plan, you pay either $200 or $300 for the iPhone. But in fact, the iPhone costs, $700 or $750, and that's what Apple's getting. In a large part of that is money from the carrier. So, and I did always thought, the top of the line iPad, which is like $829, is not that much more expensive than the top of the line iPhone. And I always thought that was a little weird because iPad has much bigger components, right? A much bigger screen, much bigger battery, much more material. Now, on the other hand, the iPhone has a 3G chips plus some sort of phone mechanism, and you don't have a phone mechanism in the iPad, but you do have LTE. And so why do we have these big differences? And it could be that Forbes is right. Maybe Apple just charges more. So if that's the case, like how long more can Apple, charge like margins of 50% on the iPhone? Eventually we might see the iPhone price come down. So, it's an interesting little tidbit that has come out in the trial. Okay, so now there's a lot of practical stuff to talk about in terms of the iPad, new stuff, new apps, and new functionality. And one of the interesting things that has come out is that Google has now implemented something called Handwrite for mobile and tablet search, and it works on the iPad. And so basically, if you go to like a Google search page, I guess on your iPad, and if you turn on in your settings handwriting search recognition, you can actually write on your tablet and do search, and it's pretty wild. I tested it out on the iPad, and it works. So basically, you can write just like with your finger on the iPad. It recognizes it as text, and then it does a search. So it's pretty cool. And on Google's blog, they show like how you do it. You would just generally write something like claw, and it would then turn it into text and search it. So, I mean, if you're not into like typing, this is a quick way to do search terms. So now you have multiple ways. You can do voice dictation. Actually, if you use the Google Chrome browser, you can do voice dictation into your search thing. If you have a third generation iPad, that voice dictation's built in. You can type it, and now you could just sort of draw by hand what term you want to search. Of course, there's also, I think you can also take a picture and do the picture search. So, you have a lot of choices. So if you're looking at the video version of this podcast, this is sort of what it looks like when you go to the Google search page. You got this in the bottom here. You've got this little squiggle button, and you put that on, and you can then you can write your search term. Like, so here I'm going to write, what should I write? Apple, A-P-P-L. It does it kind of quickly, so you got to write quickly. Apple. There we go, Apple. So then let's see what happens. It turns it into a search term. I put Apple 1. Let me stop it. Okay, so I'm going to write quickly Apple. Let's see if it gets it. There, it gets it. So there we go, search and Apple. So it's interesting. It's definitely a different way to do search. Here, let's try something else. Let's try boat. And Apple boat. Oh, so you can add stuff to your search term. So I'm just going to write, let's see, how about I'll write car. And it's going to turn it into a text. And then I can write some more. I can put a space. So you can write multiple words in your search term. Car, rental. So I wrote rental, and that'll turn it into rental. So you see it works. So if you really hate typing, car rental, and then another space, I'm going to put car rental store. And see, you can write over the text that you see. So, and then it just magically puts it in there as text. So it kind of works. And it is kind of a different way to do things. So, we're always seeing progress. Okay, so now I want to talk about a new app that came out that I had a chance to play with, and maybe I'll show you a little bit of it on the screencast of it. And it's called Perspective, and it's by Pixa.com, Pixxa.com. And it's a free app, but like a lot of free apps, it's not completely free. And what's interesting about it, it also seems to have some involvement by Horace Daydu, who runs the Simco.com blog, and he's sort of like a independent analyst who analyzes Apple, and he used to work at Nokia, and he's really into charts at Simco.com. And what this app is, it's hard to describe this app, but it basically allows you to create stories, and the stories are sort of like a combination of a PowerPoint or a keynote with the ability to create these very cool looking charts where you could import like an Excel spreadsheet or a comma delineated data set, and then create these charts. And so here is the description. But before I go into that, let me tell you, it's a free app. And the free app allows you to create one story at a time just to sort of test it out. However, if you want to create as many stories to use, as possible, you have to pay $19.99. So it's pretty hefty. So, overall, I've got some minuses and pluses with this app. So basically, it says, Perspective is a platform for exploring, creating, and sharing audio-visual stories. To learn more, download Perspective and play Getting Started Story. Then visit Featured Stories to explore visually compelling stories. To author your own, start with My First Story. You can use all authoring features in My Story for free. Beyond that, you may purchase authoring kit. Now, here's the weird thing. It suggests that you can do audio narration, and when you get the free version, you could see that one of the features of the samples are that somebody does an audio narration to it. But what I noticed is after purchasing the $19.99 authoring fee, I wasn't able to implement the audio narration. In fact, the only way you could do that is by registering and giving your email and name to the people behind Pixa, and then only then will they activate the audio feature. So I don't know if that is consistent with Apple's guidelines for the App Store. So I thought that was a little weird that you would have to register with them to be able to turn on the audio. And then you can apparently publish your stories, and then but I think they have to accept it at Pixa.com for publishing. And it looks now that you can only publish it within the app. So other people have to download the free app to see your publishing. And I haven't tested this out with AirPlay, but I assume AirPlay will work, because that would be huge, right? Because the idea here is you go to a conference and you show the chart, and ideally you want to show it through AirPlay. So I guess they're called pivot charts or something like that, but it's kind of cool. So maybe I can show you an example. Okay, so if you're looking at the screencast of this is what Perspective looks like, and it starts off to an example, I guess. But if you press two fingers closely together, you can go back to sort of like the interface where you can see the different stories, and it's essentially divided into My Stories, which are your own, and then Featured Stories. And let's see, I don't know, you can buy stories. Now it says here, Apple's fiscal third quarter 2012 preview, and basically it's fetching information, and you would have to purchase that, I guess, for 99 cents. Let's go back to My Story. So I downloaded some stuff for free. So here's an example of Silicon Valley versus Hollywood movie industry. So think of these almost like slides, and you can sort of press through it, and they also run on their own. But here's a slide, and it's a chart, and this is kind of cool because you can have it go automatically. There's like a play button, and it shows you over time, like slices of time, what the percentage of the marketplace the different movie studios had. So that's kind of cool. So at a conference, you could import this data and then sort of play it to show how over time the percentage of the marketplace of the different studios had. So that's kind of cool, and then let's see, it shows what the personal computing space was, and you could see over time personal computing in terms of smartphones and PCs. Actually, the PC dominating there. And so this is kind of a cool way to do a chart to show the different percentages and as they change. And so for the free version, you can just sort of play this stuff and buy stuff, but you can also create your own your own stories. Now, to do that, let's see, if you press organize, you can delete the story. So I can select, let's say I created my story, and the trash can is there. And if I want to, I can publish it. Now, publishing, I think you got to get approval from the people behind this to publish it. And let's see what happens if I press publish. And it says here you got a request to publish. Before you can publish your interactive stories, you must first make a request to publish and agree with the terms of the PIXA publishing agreement. And then when you receive a publishing code, you enter it. So that's somewhat limiting. They give other examples. Here's like the solar system example of a story that someone created. And now I'm at the end. But let's go to the beginning and see what it looks like. So it's our solar system, and then you've got like this little bar graph thing that you can move around, and then it shows you the celestial body types at a glance. And here's one showing the characteristics of a celestial body. Now in this version, you could see the picture changing in the background, and I couldn't figure out how they did that. I tried to author my own, and I couldn't figure out how they had the pictures change with the background. So look, I think this is very interesting stuff, but I have a suggestion for the people behind this. First, they should not require you to email them and give your information, who you are, to get all the features. If you pay for the features, they should just turn it on. I don't think this is really consistent with the App Store. Second, they should make it so that if you create these things, you can export them to some sort of format that works outside of Perspective. Because right now, it only seems to work these charts within Perspective. It would be nice if these charts could export to Keynote or to PowerPoint or to some other format where you can, post it on a website or something like that. So this is kind of limiting. But overall, I think it's a very innovative concept. I just don't like how they're trying to make it like closed to using it within the app, and then you have to register with them. So if you're into chart making, this is kind of interesting, although somewhat limited. Okay, so the next app I want to talk about I really, really, really like, and it's called iTranslate Voice HD. And right now it's on sale at launch for 99 cents. And this is, I think it's pretty much a tremendous app for 99 cents. And it works on the iPad. And basically what it does is you can dictate something, and it will translate your voice from one language to another language in both text and a speaking voice. So this is sort of like science fiction. This is sort of like, in Star Trek, they might have like these little tricorders or some sort of device that allowed the Star Trek people to speak to people who didn't speak their language and just translate it in real time. And this is pretty incredible. And so it has a lot of languages. It can translate from English, U.S. English, U.K. English, Australian English, Spanish, Spain Spanish, Spanish United States, Spanish Mexican, French France, French Canada, Germany, Italy, Italian, Japanese, Mandarin Chinese, Mandarin Taiwanese, Cantonese, Korean, Dutch, Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, Portuguese Brazil, and Polish and Russian. So it's pretty wild. And it says additional languages with voice output include Arabic, Indonesian language called Bahasa, Catalan, Greek, Hindi, Slovak, Thai, and Turkish. So this is incredible, and it works really, really, really well. Let me see if I can give you a little preview of it on a screencast of this. Okay, so here's iTranslate HD, and it's very simple to use. When you launch it, it says tap a mic to start, and there's two mics. And right now the default, I guess, is US on the left, and it looks like French on the right. And so all you do is dictate, and it translates it by going to the crowd. Cloud. Now watch this. So I'll test something. What time is it today? Do you know? And there it goes. And it look how quickly that did that. And now it's going to, I don't know if you can hear. And then it translates it into French, and then it says it in French. And you can click on the phrase and have it speak again.
Quelle heure est-il aujourd'hui vous connaissez?
Do you hear that? I'll do it again.
Quelle heure est-il aujourd'hui vous connaissez?
Now, you can also copy the text of that or share it. And if you share it, you can text it, mail it, tweet it, or post it on Facebook. So it's pretty incredible. And what's nice is like on this this little palette you have here, you could load in a whole bunch of phrases. Let's say you're in a foreign country like France, and you just want to have some standard phrases. You could just quickly record them in, and they'd be in there. So here's another one. Where is the train station? And here it comes. It's translating.
Où est la station de train?
Okay, and then I could have, is there a good place to eat around here? And look,
Y a-t-il un bon endroit pour manger ici?
And you could just have all these stock phrases now. And then if you go up to the settings, you can change the languages. Okay, so the two mics can be changed to, Chinese, Danish. I mean, you've got a pretty wide range, and I assume they're going to pick more languages. So it's pretty impressive. And let's see, other things you can do. You can put on dictionary results, detect end of speech, auto speak, shake to speak. You can GIF the app, rate the app. So look, it's a simple app, but I think this is incredibly powerful. Oh, you can also adjust the sound and even use AirPlay to play the sound on the speaker. And you can also adjust, the sound for purposes of, are you a man or a woman? The speed of how fast it speaks back to you. So, look, I think this is tremendous. And if you want to erase the stuff, you just pull down. Let's see, does it? Yep, and then it puts it in the trash. So it's a very elegant app. I can't rave enough about this. I think iTranslate Voice HD, it's kind of very clever, genius. Now, again, to translate, it needs to go to the cloud. So you have to have internet access. But I greatly recommend this app. So the iPad's rapidly becoming, a way to watch television and watch movies. And it's such a rich multimedia app. And it's getting even more so. Amazon released on July 31st a free app called Amazon Instant Video. And what this app allows you to do is if you join Amazon's Prime program where you get free shipping, 2-day shipping for a year for like something like $70. Well, that service also gives you access to instant video from Amazon at no additional cost. And they apparently have 120,000 videos in Amazon Instant Video. And this free app, if you have that account, allows you to watch these videos, and you can also download purchased and rented videos from your library for offline viewing on airplanes. So this is very powerful, and I'm tempted to subscribe to Amazon Prime. It says here, stream thousands of titles available from Prime Instant Video at no additional cost with Prime membership. Download purchased and rented videos from your video library. Shop over 120,000 videos available from the Amazon Instant Video Store by visiting Amazon. Add videos to your watch list from a PC, Mac, or Kindle Fire for later viewing on your iPad. Subscribe to a TV season pass by visiting Amazon, and episodes will automatically be available on your iPad the day after they air. Start watching on your iPad, and I think, and it also has Amazon Whisper, so it remembers where you are. And I think it does work with, AirPlay. I'm not sure. Now, the customer reviews, some of the reviews are bad. Here's a 2-star review. The first I see, how about a search function? Apparently you really can't really search on the iPad app. You have to go to the website or on a computer to search and then put your movies in your queue on the iPad. So that part stinks. It says here, been waiting for this app for a while. Apple TV streaming doesn't seem to work right. All it gets is audio, no video. So there's problems with, I guess, with the AirPlay. So I don't know. The AirPlay is not maybe enabled because a lot of people seem to be complaining. If you jailbroke your iPad, apparently it doesn't work. So I don't know. The reviews aren't that great. They're kind of mixed. But look, I think this is a huge step forward. And I wonder if Amazon will now give up with the Kindle Fire because, Nexus, Google's coming out with the Nexus 7. They're not going to really be able to compete with that. And if Apple's allowing Amazon content like this to come on the iPad, why does Amazon really need to have its own device? Because it looks like Apple's allowing Amazon to have, the Kindle, the Amazon Instant Video. So Apple seems to be comfortable with allowing these competing media distribution platforms to be used on the iPad. Anyways, I think this is really opens up your options for watching TV and video on your iPad. Now, if you're watching the Olympics, there's a whole bunch of Olympic apps. I guess the most famous ones are the ones from NBC. There's one called NBC Olympics Live Extra, and this one, supposedly has a lot of the content that you want. It has pre-game features, video on demand, access short-form video clips to preview the London Games. You can watch every event of the London Olympics. It says live, full event replays, channels. You can simulcast the Olympic program on NBC Universal Television while you're, on a TV while you're using this. There's something called the Gold Zone. You can check out Gold Zone live streaming. So anyway, so there's this app, and it's a free app called NBC Olympics Live Extra. And, the ratings range from one person gives it 1 star and says garbage. It says Adobe and NBC have combined to make a terrible app. The picture is always fuzzy. Another person writes, I don't understand why so many negative reviews. This app is great. I've been able to keep up with the Olympics for all games. Schedule is easy to view. Love that you can see a feed and scroll under it to see what other feeds are available or upcoming. So, there's lovers and haters of this app. It weighs in at 33.7 megabytes, so you might want to, if you don't have a lot of room, that might take up some room. So there's that app. Okay, so another app covering the Olympics is the London 2012 official results app for the Olympic and Paralympic Games, and is a free version and a 99-cent version. And let's see. So basically, this claims to be the official London 2012 results app. Provides, according to the app description, all the latest news, schedules, and results, allowing users to keep up to the date with the latest action live across all the Olympic sports. And key features include covering all events for the 36 sports of the Olympics, live schedule, follow the latest sporting events that are currently in progress, view results in real time, view live updates as a calendar schedule day by day, which sporting events are taking place. You can view each of the sports. There's medals, shows the overall medal count and who the athletes are, and you can check your games, like for your participating countries. And the reviews seems a little more positive here. And so I think the 99-cent version has no advertising, and the free version does. So you might want to check out this. It's called London 2012 Official Results App. So check that out if you're still looking for an app. Now, another Olympic-related app that I found is called Olympic Tennis 2012, and it's put out by the International Tennis Federation. So it has a tennis slant to the Olympics, and it's free. And it says here, follow all the action during the tennis event at the Olympics with this app, keep up to date with the latest Olympic tennis news and the tennis scores and schedules. So, it's basically the Olympic tennis app. So if you're really into tennis at the Olympics and you just want to follow that, here's an app that focuses just on that. Another app is called 2012 Team USA Road to the Olympics app, and it's put out by the United States Olympic Committee. This is another free app, and this is the official Team USA app, I guess, that provides the Road to the London application. The key features are daily updates of who's making the team. So this is sort of the pre-getting to the Olympics. Unique and relevant editorial content focused on a particular sport and athlete served daily. Custom-made cheer button, which enables users to send a personal message to athletes via Facebook and Twitter. Athlete bios, photos, galleries, video clips, ability to donate to the Team USA. So look, if you really just want to really focus on Team USA, here's a free app that apparently does that. Now, if you want to do things and I guess get involved in activities during the Olympics, you might want to check out another free app called the London 2012 Official Join In app for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. And I have links to all of these apps on the podcast link show notes. So this one apparently, I think it's related to the same people who did the other London Organizing Committee app. And basically this one sounds like it gives you things to do. So let's see, the key events are, key features, what's on, full up-to-date event listings for thousands of existing activities, including free events across London and in the United Kingdom. So there's things like you can find out what's happening near you on an hour-to-hour basis. There's something called Torch Today, view the Olympic Torch Relay. And this is on the initial days of the thing as it's going through the different routes. You can see and do full listings of London 2012 festival cultural events, big screens, live sites, and hundreds of other free events. Spectator guide, get searchable maps, details of facilities, augmented reality views and information. So it seems to be much more of an immersive app, telling you of all the little things related to the Olympics that you can do. There's also something called My Games, create personal schedule creation to help you plan your Olympics and Paralympic experience. And there's augmented reality. So this one just seems to be across England and where the Olympics are, just letting you in on all sorts of stuff. So here's another app you might want to check out. Another free app that you might want to check out is from Reuters, the big news agency. It's called Reuters Olympics London 2012. And basically this delivers Olympic photos and moments captured by Reuters award-winning photographers. And I guess it works both on the iPad and the iPhone. And one of the reviews says the pictures are fantastic, and I love the additional info about the photographers. I was surprised that an extra fanfare announces a notification when a player from a country moves ahead. So it's a very picturesque app showing you all the all the great shots at the Olympics. So you probably want to download this. This is 44 megabytes in size, and it's free from Reuters, called Reuters Olympics London 2012. Not to be outdone, Sports Illustrated has their own London 2012 Olympic app. It's also free. And let's see, the description is pretty straightforward. Experience the Olympics through the eyes of Sports Illustrated's writers and photographers. This special daily edition of Sports Illustrated update every second brings you the latest from London for free. So it's basically, content straight from Sports Illustrated. So, it's free. And so if you're really into the Olympics, here's something else to check out. One person gives it 5 stars and writes, the preview issue has the same articles as the current issue of Sports Illustrated, but there are a lot more pictures, and I'm assuming that we'll have up-to-date coverage during the Olympics. Another person writes, 1 star, very disappointing, great magazine as always, but the description claims that the app provides scores, updates, and it provides none of that. So I don't know, download it at your own peril, but again, it's free. Now, another app was 99 cents, but now it appears to be free for a limited time, and it's called OPlanner. And basically, it looks like it's a special planning app for the Olympics. And they write here, due to the amazing feedback we've been receiving, we decided to make this app free for a limited time to thank everyone for using OPlanner. So basically, you can watch... you can basically plan and search for content regarding the Olympic sports, and you could just conduct a whole bunch of searches. The top 10 search terms are number 10 track and field, number 9 basketball, number 8 equestrian, number 7 South Korea, number 6 Michael Phelps, number 5 soccer, number 4 football, number 3 USA, number 2 swimming, and number 1 gymnastics. And so it says here it's the ultimate planning tool for the London Olympics. It's easy to find events, set reminders, and share with friends, view and sort by sporting event, date, local time, and even gender. Tag your favorites and set up easy reminders so you don't miss a single moment. Share into Facebook or Twitter and experience the Olympics. So it sounds like you can, it's a great app for just like finding events and remembering when they are. It says here you can automatically set your time zone so you don't have to worry about the time differences, constantly updated with the latest event data, set reminders for any game, create and curate your own list of favorites, sort by date, gender, country, sport, no ads. So, overall, I mean, it's gotten very good reviews. Very nice Olympics event scheduling solution. Someone writes, another person gives it 5 stars and says, I've scheduled the events I want to watch on my calendar and set the alerts to remind me before. It's like a TV guide on the go. Thanks guys for the easy to use app and looking for a simple scheduling solution. So, it appears to be a very good app for keeping track of the different events and reminding yourself what's playing. And again, it's called OPlanner, OPlanner. So check it out. It's free right now. Another worthwhile app for the Olympics is Curly's Pocket Guide to Sports, and it's 99 cents. And basically, it's a guide that explains to you the rules to the different games and sports that you're watching, because a lot of them you probably never really knew that well. So it's a guide to running, jumping, swimming, cycling, riding, kicking, lifting, poking, hitting, rowing, firing, and throwing things. And it's it basically explains to you all the sports. It says Curly's Guide features a beautifully illustrated card for each sport, 74 sports explained with complete rules and illustrations, tips and tactics for all events, witty stories from the sporting archives, amazingly interesting facts, fully searchable list of sports, share facts and tidbits with friends on Twitter. And so basically, if you're watching all these sports and don't know a lot of the rules, it looks like, this 99-cent app has like a lot of the rules for you. So it looks pretty nicely designed in terms of the cards. And let's see, the reviews, generally good, the few that are highlighted here. And I think it's a clever idea for an app because, look, a lot of us don't know the rules to all these, like running and lifting and poking and hitting and rowing sports. And so if you're watching one of these competitions, you might want to quickly check out, the explanation of what this sport is and what the rules are. So I think it's pretty cool. Okay, so finally, moving on from the Olympics, an app that came out that's of note that you might want to get if you're into planning things and trying to organize a project and you want to have everything in one place. There's a $2 app for now. It's normally, it says it's 70% off for $2 right now, but it's called Projectbook, notes and to-dos, and it's a pretty ambitious app. It basically lets you type notes in a variety of fonts. It says here, create outlines, handwrite, sketch. You can record audio and take photos together on any page. So it's one of these apps where you can just dump everything into it. It says here, it helps you stay on top of your projects and due dates with flexible to-do manager. It can search Word documents, PDFs, web clips, notes, and more, and it automatically connects related information throughout your notebook so you can find anything fast. I think they're planning on having a desktop app at some point, and it'll sync through iCloud with that. So basically it sounds like you can put in notes, you can dump Word documents, PDFs, RTF documents, you can sketch in it, you can add photos, you can do web searches and put that in there, you can put notes in there. So it's like one of these things where it looks like you can dump a lot of stuff, and then it's going to work with iCloud to sync across devices, and I think also with Dropbox. So, you know, it looks like it has a decent interface for creating projects and linking, you know, notes within projects. So it's pretty ambitious. I haven't bought it yet. It's only $2, but it looks like, you know, it could be useful in business if you want to, you know, have a project and you have a lot of material all in one place. It might be good for lawyers to the extent, you know, you want to put a lot of case notes in there and exhibits and stuff like that. I don't know how robust it is, but, you know, it's not that expensive. It's only $2. Okay, so that's it for episode 107 of the iPad podcast. Thanks for listening. This is Lex at maxfuture.com, and I guess I'll see you next week.
This has been a Max Future production.